Howdy. Sorry if you can immediately hear my dog. But yeah, so I have been in a really bad reading slump. I think it's been about, I want to say 2 weeks since I've even picked up a book. I've even attempted to like start a reading vlog multiple times, but I don't know what's going on. I'm going through a lot in my personal life right now. And so I think that's what is like affecting my reading mood. But yeah, so I decided that for sure this coming week I really wanted to participate in the Historical Romance Readathon. So I did participate in the Historical Romance Readathon earlier this year. I think it was during the summer. I want to say June or July. It was my first ever readathon that I had ever done. I did it before I started my Bookstagram, so I was using my personal account, and it was a ton of fun. I really do like doing readathons, even though I don't necessarily get like a ton of reading done, just because it's kind of fun to challenge yourself into, reading different things. But I also really enjoy the community aspect of doing readathons. I've discovered so many different like Bookstagram accounts while doing readathons. And historical romance is my favorite book genre, and historical romance is what got me back into reading a lot more. So, I don't know if you'll be able to see him, but Tofu's here. But yeah, so this historical romance readathon spans from this December 6th until I want to say December 12th. And put the host in the description as well, who are hosting the readathon. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. So since this is like a December historical romance readathon, I am trying to focus on Christmas books. So I have 3 books that I for sure want to get to. I am using AnyPlay, the AnyPlay app, to read these because I can't read physical books right now. I have to have audio. But yeah, so the first book that I'm going to focus on is Grace Burrows' The Wyndhams, the Duke's Daughter series, and this is Lady Sophie's Christmas Wish. So this is actually like the group pick for the Historical Romance Readathon. Like I think they're gonna do like a big live stream where everybody discusses this book. This is funny because I already owned this book prior to the readathon. This is like a library donation that was gonna go in like the bin, and I picked it up, and I don't know, I just thought that was so funny and convenient. I think this is part of a series. This will be my first time reading a Grace Burrows book, so that'll be interesting. I honestly don't even know what this is about. Like, I haven't even read the little blurb or anything. I don't know, it's just really cute. There's a lady in a gorgeous green dress, and there's a Christmas tree in the background. And yeah, it's the group pick, so I'm gonna read it. And the next book that I really want to get to is Earl of Kent by Lauren Smith. And this is like a Wicked Earl's Christmas. I tried to look more into this series because this is a book series, and I couldn't tell if like the whole series is Christmas theme or not. I don't know, I just couldn't find a lot of information about it. This is another like library book donation that I had just randomly picked up months ago. Yeah, so again, I don't know too much about this. This is actually a novella. So I know for sure that I will get to it because I think the audio of this is only like maybe 5 hours long or something. And I read at like a higher speed for audiobooks, so I can definitely knock this out while I'm at work. I did find out whenever I was researching this, I think this author is actually an Oklahoma native, and I'm in Oklahoma. So I just think that's really cool. I hope I like this author because I would like to check out more of her books so I can support a Oklahoma author. Now, the third book that I want to get to is My American Duchess by Eloisa James. So I don't think this book has anything to do with Christmas. I'm not sure though. But the reason why I picked this up is because not only is it like historical romance, so it kind of fits in, but this is the Rake Appreciation Society book club pick. And that's like one of the book clubs that I participate in. And I think the live stream for this book is next week. Like not this coming week, but the week after the readathon. And so I just really wanted to get to it before, and I'm gonna include it in here. Again, I don't know much about this. Since I've been in such a reading slump, I honestly haven't been like researching a ton about books. And I honestly just picked these because they were Christmas themed and convenient since I had physical copies of them. But what I do know is that, like the title says, this is an American heroine that is in the UK. And it's a love, romance story. But yeah, I don't know. Here's the step back. It's pretty good. I love that blue dress. I want to say, I need to double check, but this model, the male model, I feel like he is the same model in a Sarah MacLean book. I think in One Good Earl Deserves a Lover. It looks just like him, except that his hair's blonde in this photo. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to read those three for sure. I'm going to try to anyway. I have saved several Christmas-themed books on my AnyPlay app. A couple of them are like anthologies, so I would like to get to those so I can get exposed to more authors. And then I think I saved a couple standalones too. But yeah, I just wanted to for sure focus on these. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Grace's Burrows book, since this is like the group pick for the readathon. But yeah, I'm excited. And like I said, I haven't read anything in like 2 weeks. I'm just in a really, really bad reading slump. I haven't even checked Bookstagram in probably a week. It's bad. And I'm even like behind on my BookTube videos. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping I get out of this really big reading slump. With these readathons, typically there is like a bingo board that people can use and also themed post for every day on Instagram. I honestly don't even know if I'm gonna do any of those because that is how book slumpy I am. I don't want to like put too much pressure on myself to try and like complete things because I feel like that'll take away the funness. And also because since I am in such a reading slump, I don't want to like trigger that more. But yeah, I'm just gonna take it easy. Yeah. To make sure that this vlog isn't too long, I think I will check back in with you guys later. Maybe after I've gotten like a good chunk out of this, or even like once I'm done with this, I'll probably check back in with you guys. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys later. I look crazy right now, and this is a really weird angle, but I have to do this because I have really limited light right now. And Tofu is here. Oh, Tofu. And yeah, I'm tired. So it's Tuesday, and I finished my first book for the readathon. So I did finish Grace Burrows' Lady Sophie's Christmas Wish, and it wasn't that great. What a terrible way to start the readathon, right? Not really. I finished the audiobook for this today, and it's honestly only like a 2.5 star for me. Like, I guess maybe like if I was being nice, I would bump it up to a 3 star, but I just feel like authentically it's like a 2.5 star for me. So basically the premise of this is there's this, woman named Lady Sophie Wyndham, and she is a duke's daughter. I believe this is like the 4th book in a series or something. And so in the previous books, I think it may focus on her older brothers or something like that. And yeah, so it's, you know, I think like a couple weeks until Christmas. And instead of going to visit her family, Sophie has decided to stay home instead of traveling to like the specific estate in the countryside. I think it's like in Kent. But she is at like some sort of, I don't know if it's like a train station or something, but basically she has been left with this baby. Like she had this like worker girl, like servant girl that was like one of her workers or something, and she just straight up like dumps this baby with Lady Sophie, and Lady Sophie is just like standing there at this place being like, okay, when is she coming back? And there she meets Vin Charpentier. I listened to the audiobook and I still cannot say this guy's name. But yeah, there she meets Vim, and basically she's really struggling with this baby who is named Kit, or Christopher, but they call him Kit. And Vim is just like, hey, I can help you calm this baby down. And yeah, so Vim's kind of weirded out because he's like, I'm pretty sure you've been duped and this lady just dumped her baby on you and she's not coming back. And Sophie's freaking out because she's like, I have 0 experience with children. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I need to go home because the weather is getting really bad. It's starting to like have like a snowstorm. And he's like, well, hey, I want to make sure that you get home okay because the weather's so bad and you're just this like defenseless lady with like a friggin' 6-month-old baby. Let me like escort you home. And then obviously what happens is that the storm gets really bad, and now Sophie and Vim are like stuck at her place. Vim is, I believe he's like a viscount or something, like he has like a title, but neither him or Sophie tell each other their actual titles. So Vim is really confused because he's like, she's dressed in like really modest clothing, she's doing like house chores, like cooking and stuff, and she's really good at it, but she also doesn't seem to be just like a regular servant. He's kind of like confused about who she is and what she has to do with this family that like, because they're like in a house that's really nice and he doesn't know that it's like a duke's house. And yeah, and then Vin like, he like tells her that he's been in and out of London a lot because he travels a lot for I think like his work or something, like he's basically like overseas all the time. And I can't remember if it was like his work in the military or something. This tells you a lot that I can barely remember these specific details about the book, but anyway, and so yeah, they're just like slowly getting to know one another. And the thing that I loved about this book is definitely the first half of the book. There's like instant chemistry between them, but it's definitely like a slow burn romance, and I love it because it's very intimate. I haven't actually read a lot of historical romances where it focuses on the hero and heroine getting to know one another. Normally it's like I'm reading darker historical romances where it's like, let's do fake dating, or I'm doing an arranged marriage, I'm gonna ruin your reputation and now we have to get married, that sort of thing. So this is really nice to see like these two people that are just kind of like, it's basically like forced proximity, right? Because they can't leave their home because of the weather. But they're just getting to know one another, and it's really intimate, and they're also getting like closer together because they're, you know, trying to help comfort and take care of this abandoned baby. Sophie, she also takes in like rescue animals and fosters them. So one of my favorite parts in the book is that like while they're hanging out with the baby, this like really decrepit black fluffy cat comes in, and I think his name was like Elizabeth, which is weird because it's like a traditionally like feminine name assigned to like a male cat. And he has like a missing leg, and he just looks terrible, kind of like how Tofu is, because Tofu was a bad, like not a bad stray, but like he was a stray for most of his life. And yeah, so it's just like, it's so cute and cozy because it's like them taking care of this cute little baby, and then she has like a whole array of like decrepit looking animals that she's rescued, like a bunch of different horses and stuff. I don't know. It's really cute. But then halfway towards the end of the book, things just start going downhill for me. This is actually one of those books where I feel like I should have read the previous books in the series, because we kept like going back and forth between Sophie and Vim, and then like her brothers, because her brothers are also a part of the story, because she has these 3 older brothers, and I was super confused because I guess like she has a large family, but some of the brothers are like half siblings. And like the narrator that I was listening to, he gave one of the brothers like a really thick Irish accent, so I was like, are you a brother? Are you adopted? Like, what's going on? I don't really understand what's happening. And I feel like they were talking about stuff that has happened in previous books, and I was just really confused. But anyways, the brothers, they realize like, oh, I think Sophie was supposed to send a letter at this specific time saying that she was going somewhere, and then she obviously didn't. They thought it was kind of weird that she was staying home. And then here's another thing. I was so confused by this book. I don't know if it's because of Grace Burrows' like writing style, or like maybe because I was listening to it on audio, but I was like, I don't understand this plot. So basically the brothers just decide like, oh, I guess the weather's really bad, and like we don't want Sophie to be by herself in the storm, so we're gonna go try and travel back to London to get her. And so the story keeps filtering between like the brothers like traveling there, and then like Vim and Sophie. And it's also like going back and forth between Sophie's parents and then Vim's aunt and uncle, which play a part in the plot. And so I was just like bombarded with a bunch of characters, and I was like, I don't know why like this is important, and I'm having trouble like connecting the dots here. And then some weird stuff happens where I was like, I don't understand the conflict of this book at all. So Vim has this like thing about where he's like, I don't like going to Kent to see my family during the holidays. And there's like a weird mystery aspect having to do with like the aunt and uncle. Like he thinks someone is stealing like their really expensive possessions, and that the aunt might be developing like dementia or something. But then he's also like, but there was like this tragic event that happened to me in Kent that has also made it to where I haven't gone back in years. And whenever they reveal what that event was, it's not even like a fucking big deal. I was like, why didn't y'all just take like a chapter like early on to explain this? Because it was like not a big deal at all, but the entire book was making it out to be something more than like what it was. And so I was really disappointed by that. But also Sophie's, her decisions on things just did not make sense to me. So Sophie's like, her little Christmas wish is that she basically wants to like experience love and like fall in love. And she decides to like not tell Vim who she is, like her title. And she's like, well, okay, this is why I was confused. She's like, okay, I'm not gonna fall in love with this guy. I just want to have like a night of passion or something. And they have a night of passion, and they start developing feelings. And like Vim tells her that he's been kind of stressed about going back on the holidays because like he has to marry to inherit his title, because he finally tells her he has a title. And he's like, but I don't want to marry some like frivolous girl or cousin or whatever just to get it. And like Sophie gets offended because she's like, well, I wish he would marry me or something. And I don't know. And then like once Vim starts like, there's a part in the book where like the brothers finally get there, and obviously Vim's there, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, it's like a big deal, you know, because they're like titled people, and like that's a really big scandal, so they have to try and fix it or figure out what's going on. And Vim is like, he's like quickly like they've quickly realized within the span of a week that they're basically in love, like, which is like fine because this is a romance book. And then once he realizes that she has a title, he's like, oh, why don't we like get married? I know you're nervous about trying to like foster this kid out because you've grown attached to him. Why don't we like raise the kids together? And she gets like offended, I guess, because she's like, well, earlier you wanted to be with me as like your mistress and as like your like passionate side lover, and now you just want to marry me because it's convenient because of our titles or something like that. That's what like came off to me, and I was like, what just happened, girlfriend? Like, you just did like a whole 180 with your feelings. And then the last half of the book was just Sophie being like, no, I'm not in love with him. He doesn't truly love me. Even though he has literally like 4 times like tried to leave her house, and then he's like, I can't, I have to go back to her, because he very obviously like loves her. I feel like I described this book very badly because I'm very tired, but also I feel like I need to lower my 2.5 to a 2-star based on how I'm talking about this book. I think the reason why I wanted to give it a higher rating is because I loved the humor in this. There's some like really funny moments, obviously, with like the baby and stuff, and like, I don't know, like Vim would just say like these really ridiculous things when he was talking to the baby. The stuff happening with the brothers was kind of humorous, but then I was also confused because I felt like if I had read previous books in the series, I would have like enjoyed it more, or like I would have understood things better. And then I did love like their really intimate moments and like the sweetness in the first half of the book, but then the rest of it was just like, I did not like it. I like bumped the speed up to this audiobook and like was struggling just to finish the last 20 minutes of it. Yeah, how disappointing. Yeah, so that's how my first book of the readathon went. I can't decide what book that I am for sure going to listen to next, but I'll keep you guys posted. And I will hopefully have a better camera angle next time too, and maybe I'll be less sleepy. But yeah, I'm gonna go. This clip is really long. I'll check back in with you guys later. Hey, it's Wednesday now. I forgot what day it was. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I'm not filming in front of the Christmas tree today because we actually have somebody over like working on our windows, so if you hear any like loud noises, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so I finished my second book for the readathon, and it was Earl of Kent by Lauren Smith. And it says Wicked Earl's Christmas, but I tried to look into it, and basically this is like, I think, a spin-off from like a long-running series that she has, because there's characters that are from like the specific series that are also in it. I don't know, I was really confused. But yeah, so this is a novel, what am I trying to say? This is a novella, and this is also technically my first historical romance novella that I've read, and I really liked this. So I gave this a 5 out of 5 star. I really enjoyed it. I was a little worried because since it is novella length, I was worried about the pacing, but the pacing in this was really good, and there's actually a ton of tropes that the author was able to fit in here that was really like nice. Like there's obviously like brother's best friend, kind of like childhood lovers, but not really. There's forced proximity, because like in typical Christmas fashion, apparently there's like a snowstorm, so they're having trouble traveling and they have to stay in like a place where they share the same bed. There's also caregiving trope. I don't know, it's really good. So basically this follows our heroine, whose name is Ella, and whenever she meets our hero, who's Philip Wilkes, he's like the Earl of Kent, she meets him whenever she's only like 15 years old, and this has like a little bit of an age gap, but it's not like too terrible in terms of like historical romance. I think he's like 22 years old and she's 15, which I guess is kind of weird to readers, but whatever. And yeah, she just like looks at him because like he comes over to where she's staying, and she's like immediately falls in love with him. Like this is definitely like a love at first sight situation. And their first little meet cute is really adorable. They're basically playing billiards together because Philip accidentally like walks into the room not knowing that she's there, and he's actually grieving because his parents just recently died, and so he's staying there with his best friend who's her older brother, as like, you know, like the family is there to like support him or whatever. And so she's like, well, hey, why don't we like play a game to like distract one another? And it's really cute, but she wins a round or something while they're playing billiards, like pool, and she's like, as like a request, she's asking him to like kiss her, and he kisses her on her forehead, and this basically like really upsets her. But what I got from this is that like, especially whenever she's younger, our heroine is pretty sensitive, and so it like really hurts her feelings that he kisses her on the forehead, mostly because she knows that she's really young and she has a lot of health issues. So like her family's constantly like coddling her and like micromanaging everything that she does. So she's like, oh, I really want this like attractive guy to like, you know, think that I'm like an interesting young lady, but he just thinks of me as like this child, just like everybody else does. And so this really upsets her. But Philip has his own reasons. For one, it's like his best friend's little sister, their age gap too. He's kind of like, well, you're like a 15-year-old girl, like that's kind of weird for me to kiss you. And also just because he's in deep grieving over his parents, and his parents had a really amazing marriage, and he's like, I'm really apprehensive about falling in love one day because I don't know if I can ever like amount to like my parents' marriage or whatever. So it fast forwards into time, and the timeline kind of jumps a little bit, but it was pretty easy for me to follow. But at one point it jumps in time to whenever Ella is 18 years old, and she's doing like the coming out ceremony where she has her little coming out. And her older brother, he's, you know, a bit of a rake, a rogue, whatever, typical fashion. And he like sees this like hot widow lady across the room. And instead of like offering Ella to dance so that all these men are able to see her and be interested in her, he just goes off to say hi to this widow. So Philip is left there, and he's like, well, shit, I'll dance with you, you know. And they basically like take a break and they go outside, and they kind of have a bit of like a seduction scene. So Ella's like, she ran outside to get fresh air, and he's out there as well. And she's like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm kind of annoyed because I don't want to like join the rest of like the wallflowers because nobody wants to dance with me. And then they're joking, and he's like, they're talking about how like she still thinks that he owes her for like a kiss whenever she was like 15, and so he definitely gives her a kiss. And this book was surprisingly steamy as well. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. But yeah, and so that, you know, we were briefly seen into that period of her life, and for whatever reason, again, Philip is just kind of like brushing her off. And it flips ahead to, I want to say that it's probably only like a year or two or something. Like she's probably like 20 years old or something. Ella gets word that Philip has been severely beaten. So Philip's kind of gone off the deep end in his like depression over like his parents and his like title and whatnot. And he basically gambled away almost all of his funds, but this like really corrupt guy was like, look, if you fight in this fighting ring, I'll get rid of your debts. But it quickly turns into them just lying to him, and they're basically planning on beating him to death and killing him. And him and his like Ella's brother, she has two older brothers, and they both find him, and like he's very, very seriously injured. And even the doctor is like, only time will tell. Like, he may only have like a couple weeks to live, if that, because of like possible brain damage. And his leg was so severely broken that like his bone was actually like sticking out of his freaking leg. And so once she gets word of this, because not only like was he beaten up pretty bad, but like one of her older brothers was there and he was also hit pretty bad, she immediately goes to her brother's house where Philip is staying, and she like becomes his caregiver basically. And he's like so messed up that he just thinks that she's like this angel. He doesn't realize that it's actually her. After like, I think it's like several weeks, once he's healed, he basically brushes her off again, and he's telling her to like leave him alone, because now he knows that he's probably forever going to be impaired because of his leg. Like, he's basically been crippled because now he's having to like use a wheelchair and he can't use his leg at all. And Ella gets obviously very upset and angry, and she's like, I don't know what's so like undesirable of me, and like why you can't just like talk to me. And she storms out. And then we basically jump ahead to another year. So it's been one whole year, and Ella's been trying to forget Philip. Nobody's really had much contact with him. He's basically become a recluse. And Ella's really angry because she's like, what, like 22, 23 years old now. And she's like, everybody just thinks I'm on the shelf. Nobody wants to marry me. Society standards are like so stupid. I'm still young, blah, blah, blah. And so Ella's best friend, whose name I forgot, basically comes up with this little scheme, which was pretty like daring of her, because this could have had like really bad negative consequences. Her best friend is like, well, why don't we like go and get him to go to this Christmas party with us? And Ella's like, okay, fine. But they go there, and Ella's best friend literally deserts her there. She just gets in her carriage and leaves Ella behind. So Ella's freaking out because she's like, well, now I'm ruined because I'm here unchaperoned in this man's house. And Philip's angry because he hasn't been able to walk like barely at all within the year, and he's kind of gone off the deep end even more, and he's like severely depressed, and he's trying to like get rid of everybody out of his life, and he hasn't even had a lot of contact with her older brother. And he's like, ugh, now this girl who I know I'm desperately in love with is in my house, but I need her to go away because I'm crippled or whatever. That is like one of the things I didn't like about this novel, is that he pulls like the typical pity party where he's like, oh, woe is me, I could never be a good husband now because I'm like damaged goods or whatever. So anyways, she's basically stuck there, and while they're there, obviously they're super into each other. They're just being brats about it, and chemistry starts flying between them again. And they have this discussion, and they're basically like, do you want to resume those like seduction stuff that we were doing? And she's like, yeah. So I'm basically on the shelf now, and I don't know if anybody's ever gonna even try to marry me. I kind of just want to have fun. Do you want to give me like seduction lessons? And he's like, yeah, sure. So they kind of have these like physical intimacy moments, even though they're trying to push past their like obvious love for one another. And so he finally gives in, and he's like, okay, I might go to the party. Why don't we try and travel there in my carriage? It can take up to 2 days though. So of course the roads get bad, and they have to stay at an inn. And they have this like really lovely night. And then that night they decide to like actually make love for the first time. And that basically like seals the deal, where they for sure know that they like love each other, and that they've basically like loved each other since they first saw each other. But the next morning, Philip does the thing where he's like, I'm not a fit husband for you. I have this awful leg. And she's like, you don't even know if the leg's permanently damaged. You just haven't been using it because you're afraid to. And she basically like calls him out. Ella is such a cool heroine. She's so like strong-willed. I had mentioned that she had like medical issues, and I basically what I think that they're implying is that maybe she has like asthma or something. So whenever she was really young, it was really bad, and she's been like basically trying to take back her independence, and she's pretty feisty with people. And yeah, she just calls him out on his BS and is like, you're just afraid of being loved by me, and I deserve better than that. And if you're a real man, I'm leaving now, and you can come and get me if you really truly love me. And she leaves, and she gets in her own carriage and leaves the inn and goes to the party by herself. And of course, in true romance fashion, Philip goes after her. And yeah, it's really beautiful and lovely. Perfect pacing for a novella length, and this is honestly like a good introduction book for me to this author. Yeah, and I was really excited to read this because the author is actually an Oklahoma native, and I'm based in Oklahoma, and I would love to support more Okie authors. And yeah, I don't know, I'm excited to read more. I'll probably try to see if I can start with like her big series. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called like A League of Rogues or something. I'll probably start with that soon. But yeah, it was a good read for the readathon. I went from having like a 2-star to a 5-star. It was great. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna read American Duchess next because that's the Rake Appreciation Society book club pick, and it's historical romance, so obviously it'll fit in with the readathon. But yeah, I'll check back in with you guys later. Hey guys. It's Saturday, so this is day 5 of the readathon, and technically tomorrow is the last day of the readathon, but I'm going to go ahead and close this out because this video is already so long, and I already know that I'm not going to read any more books, but I did finish my 3rd book for the readathon. And yeah, I finished My American Duchess by Eloisa James. And then again, here's the gorgeous step back. Yeah, I enjoyed this. This happens every single time that I do a readathon. I felt like I was slowly starting to get really book slumpy. It's always like closer towards the weekend that I have trouble reading more during readathons, but I am really glad that I finished this. I listened to the audio for this. And this book was also a Rake Appreciation Society book. So next week we're going to have like the discussion for it. And yeah, so I wanted to fit it into this readathon. So this follows our heroine named Mary Pelford, and Mary is an American in London. And then this isn't a Christmas book, but her name is Mary, as in like Merry Christmas, like it's spelled Merry, which I think is like kind of cute and Christmassy. But basically she recently just became engaged to this aristocrat named Cedric. And Mary's a bit of like what we would call like a serial dater. I don't know, she's like one of those people that we all know where they'll like date somebody and then break up and then immediately jump into like a new relationship. Mary's basically like that in a way. Cedric is actually her 3rd betrothal. Yeah, Mary's just one of those people where she wants to find love, and she, you know, will meet someone and think that she truly loves them, but then as she starts to get to know them better, she's like, oh, I don't actually want to get married to them, and then she'll call it off. So she's worried that like in society's eyes, she's being seen as like fickle and whatnot, and it's actually really heartbreaking to like read Mary's like basically how like self-conscious she is about this, because I mean, I don't know, like I'm not a serial dater person, but like she's just like everybody else and she wants to find the right person for her. So I don't know, it was kind of sad to like read about her struggle with this. But yeah, anyways, she's at some sort of like party and she goes outside and she sees this man, and she just instantly like hits it off with him. Like they start having like this really great conversation. You know, they're both laughing, they're having a good time. And turns out the man that she's talking to is the Duke of Trent. And the Duke of Trent is actually Cedric's twin brother. By the way, this is hot cocoa and it's so good and so fitting for this readathon. Anyway, yeah. So pretty much Trent is immediately possessive and obsessed with Mary. He's like, ooh, I'm gonna go find that woman and talk to her again. And then he gets completely thrown off guard whenever he realizes that his twin brother is actually engaged to her. Also because Cedric, he's basically not the best person. We as readers find out pretty quickly that Cedric has kind of ulterior motives for marrying Mary. He's basically just wanting her fortune, you know, just like a typical like rake aristocrat where he's like, yeah, I'm trying to marry well. I don't, know her very well at all. I don't really care. Like, I'm just gonna like woo her and make her think that I really care about her so that I can get her money. And he's also a functional alcoholic, which was really sad to read about. I'm gonna go ahead and state that Cedric is very much the anti-hero of this book. There are moments where you're like, man, this guy's really despicable, but as we learn more about the character Trent and Cedric, or about the hero Trent and Cedric, his twin brother, you realize that like Cedric has his own like demons and stuff that he's battling, and so you kind of feel bad for him. But yeah, so the story progresses, and over time Mary realizes that she's really, really attracted to Trent. And it's like she's never felt this way about anybody before, but she's too nervous to break off her engagement with Cedric because of her past betrothals, and she doesn't want this to like ruin her reputation anymore. She's also an American in London, and at this point in time, this is like, I can't remember, it was like early 1800s, and I even remember them stating that America had only been a country for like 20 or 25 years. So London society is already like, putting a lot of pressure on her, being like, oh, she's just like the typical wild American that can't fit in with our society. She can't help that she's so uncultured, things like that. And so she's starting to feel awful because she's really struggling like morally to not be attracted to Trent. And then on top of like everything else, it's just, yeah, it's really hard for Mary. It's hard to like read about. It is kind of stressful. Like I felt really bad. Mary herself as a character is just super fun too. She's kind of naive in the best way possible. Like it's actually like an endearing trait of hers. She's also very strong-willed and opinionated. And yeah, I don't know. I just really liked her character. But yeah, so basically things quickly escalate. There's some events that happen between Cedric and Mary. And I have to tread really lightly about how I talk about this book because I feel like it would be a big spoiler. But I think it's safe to assume as readers that we know that Mary and Trent are going to be together in the end. And yeah, through events of the book, they do sort of get together, but the drama doesn't end there. We find out that Trent, he's very like emotionally stunted and scarred. He truly believes that love isn't real at all. Like it's not an emotion that is like legit, and he doesn't think that he's capable of loving. And Mary also struggles because she's terrified that since her past romances that if she were to ever fall in love again, especially with Trent, she can't trust her own feelings, and she also doesn't want Trent to think that she's just like oh, I'm in love with you, but I'm not actually. I'm just saying it because like this is how I'm feeling right now. You know, she doesn't want him to truly believe that she's fickle, and she herself also thinks that she might be. Yeah, I don't know. It's just very interesting dynamic to read about. So I forgot to mention my star rating. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I really, really loved this. The reason why I didn't give it a full 5 stars is because in the later half of the book, I really struggled with our hero, Trent. I understood where he was coming from, but also I just felt like he was starting to like really, really emotionally white fang Mary, and it was so heartbreaking to read, you know, just how he was starting to treat Mary. And yeah, also, but what I did love is their relationship. So they're basically like friends to lovers. The book really focuses in on how Trent and Mary basically become the best of friends, and Trent even tells her at one point in the book where he's like, I don't think romantic love is real, but I really, really care about you because you're my best friend, and I can, like, you know, be myself around you, and I feel like safe and whole with you, even though he thinks that he can't truly love Mary. And yeah, another favorite part about this book for me is the intimate conversations that Mary and Trent have. This book is very steamy. It is real steamy. It's pretty slow because, you know, it's like the first half of the book is about them, you know, getting to a certain point in their relationship, and then the later half is, you know, it's real steamy. But Trent and Mary have some really intimate conversations that I thought were super realistic. I'm not going to go into detail about what they were talking about because I don't want like YouTube to flag this video. But basically they're, you know, having these really funny conversations while exploring each other's body. And I don't know, like their communication was so open and honest about like, this what feels good for me. Tell me, you know, if I'm doing something wrong. You know, just being open with each other about their bodies, and that kind of brought them even closer emotionally in their relationship to where, yeah, they were like the best of friends and they felt safe to talk with one another. Yeah, so the emotional white fanging, it did last for several chapters, but then it wrapped it up really, really well in the end. And I liked it. Also, I don't think this is a spoiler, but I definitely see Cedric as an anti-hero because the author sort of implies that all things go well with Cedric. And I really, really need to read a I can't talk. A redemption story for Cedric, because I think he deserves it. Yeah. He's kind of tough to handle, but we see that he's just dealing with his own stuff, and it's really hard for him. There's also more scenes with cute little dogs. There's a I think it's like a bulldog mix that Mary finds that she names George for like President George Washington. And Trent ends up begrudgingly inheriting this little white scruffy like frou-frou dog that I can't remember her name. I think it was like Snow Puff or Snowball, something silly like that. And I don't know, and she's like really feisty and tears everything up in their house, but she loves Trent. It's just so cute. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really recommend this for other people. And that's it. That's it, guys. So I read 3 books for the readathon. And honestly, I'm not mad about it. Could I have read more if I pushed myself? Yeah, I could have. But did I? No. But I did enjoy everything that I read, even though I only rated this like a 2 to a 2.5 star. It was still like, I was glad that I read it anyway. And yeah, I don't know, I'm proud of myself. 3 books a week is like a good average for me, let's just say that. Yeah, I don't know, this was fun, guys. Like I said, I'm ending the readathon for myself pretty early, but it's been really fun doing like the Instagram posts and seeing what everybody else read. And yeah, And just like the first historical romance readathon, I really enjoyed it and I can't wait to do another one again. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your holidays if I don't upload another video before then. I hope you enjoyed some nice cozy Christmas books. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Bye guys.